So we are the Hallmarkies podcast, and we would like to wish you all a very happy Valentine's Day. And we are here for this special episode of our podcast. And Amber is here with me.
Hi, everybody.
I'm Rachel, and we have a very special guest today. We're so excited. We have the screenwriter, Gregg McBride, with us, Twitter extraordinaire, one of our fellow Hallmark fans, the author of A Heavenly Christmas. And so you want to say hi, Gregg?
Hello, Gregg.
Thank you so much for joining us. We're so excited to have you with us.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Yeah, I just don't write for Hallmark. I'm also a big fan. I always have been. I used to be big on the Hallmark cards when I was little. I still send snail mail. My friends make fun of me. And I remember from a very early age, I think my mom taught me this, I would always turn over the cards to see if Hallmark was there. So it's the same thing now with romantic comedies. Hallmark or not Hallmark? Or Hallmarkies? That is the question.
You got to stay in family, right?
That's right. That's right.
That's really, really cool. So how did you become interested in, were you always wanted to be a writer, or was that something that came on later? Or?
No, I was always interested in being a writer and a director. I haven't done that professionally yet, but from a very early age, I was doing student films, and I would usually rip off whatever was out there. Like one of my very first movies was called The Third Encounter. Not Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Do not sue me, Steven Spielberg. It was The Third Encounter, okay? So I would see a good idea and I would run with it. And then when I was in high school, I did a movie. I did the Charlie's Angels in high school, like a prequel almost, as it were. And so, I've always been very into pop culture and have always been an observer. And my friends used to call me the R-rated Walt Disney because my movies would have a lot of scares and terror and stuff like that, but there would always be a really happy ending at the end. Like somehow everything would always work out, the romance would work out, and so the rest is history. And I've always been a big fan of Christmas and the holidays. I was one of those people that made the pumpkin latte start to be very very popular. I was always an early adapter for holidays, and Valentine's Day, Easter, St. Patrick's Day. I'm waiting for those President's Day cards to start happening. And we'll have our Hallmarkies President's Day podcast next year. So I love all that stuff. And I think the really great thing about it is, in getting to write is, you get to share your hopes and dreams with people. And I think that's been one of the really exciting things about doing a Hallmark movie. Heavenly Christmas was just such a wonderful experience. And I was very lucky and even blessed that it was a Hallmark Hall of Fame production. And so we got an amazing cast. But as somebody that has lived and worked in Hollywood for a very long time, I can tell you that whether it's an A-list project or a C-list project or a TV movie or whatever it is, a major motion picture, I find that the most successful ones are ones that kind of have that community theater feel, where everybody's kind of rolling up their sleeves and bringing their best to it, because it is a business. There's always a deadline. There's always tight budgets. There's, especially with Hallmark, it's like September and hot in Vancouver. We have to make it look like it's Christmas week in Chicago. And they did an amazing job of that. But so I just love the magic of it. But I also, and when everybody comes together, and at the end of the day, we're all kind of getting excited, and the fans are equally a part of it. Like, I love that people embrace Hallmark movies like they do, not just Heavenly Christmas, all of them. It's just, there's such a groundswell of support, and it's really amazing. And to meet people that tell you that, you're something you worked on, because again, it's a group effort, but that something you worked on has given them a little bit of hope, or is something that they want to own because they want to watch it every year, no matter what it is really special. And I'll share one little last tidbit with you that makes Heavenly Christmas so special to me is, for anyone that's seen it, They know that a singer, Eric McCormack's character, has a hard time getting over his recently deceased sister, Becky.
Mm-hmm.
And Becky is based on and named after my mother-in-law, who we recently lost to bone cancer.
Oh.
And before, she was sick for a while, but before she passed away, she was able to see the movie and see that I named a character after her. And, you know, it's, so again, it just, you know, these are the gifts that keep on giving, right? And when we turn on the Hallmark channel, we know that we're going to feel good at the end of it. You know, we're going to take a little ride, and it's going to be funny, and it's going to be this and all these things. But if we can make the world a happier place, that's such a gift, you know, to be able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. The Hallmark is just so special. And thank you for sharing that story about Becky. I'm going to cry more now when I watch it.
I know.
Yeah, Heavenly Christmas was such a sweet movie. So I'm just, thanks for writing it.
Yeah.
Well,
how did you get, aside from that one point of inspiration, like how did you start writing it, and what was that experience like writing it?
It was great. You know, I always had the idea of what would a Christmas angel be like if she never celebrated Christmas? You know,
Mm-hmm.
somehow she just got into the program. And so that was the germ of the idea. And I had a general meeting at Hallmark, and I'd been in there before, and I shared the idea, and they were very responsive to it and wanted to know more. And, you know, of course, immediately they were like, does she get back to Earth? Does she fall in love? And I hadn't thought it all through. And I was like, yes. But then they wanted to see something in writing. And so it went from there. And I have to say that everybody at Hallmark was such a pleasure to work with. I mean, they know their brand so well. And so listening to them and their notes, you know, Randy Pope, Michelle, Bill Abbott, they really know their brand. But at the same time, they really listen as well. And they know that they're making movies that are so special to people. And so again, that's where that group effort comes in. And I remember when they found out that Kristen Davis and Eric McCormack had signed on officially for the movie, you know, they called me so excited, and it was, you know, and I immediately was like, I got to hang up. I got to call my friend so excited, you know, but to have a vice president call me and be so thrilled, you know, they're casting these movies, you know, all day and all year long. But they really have that passion for that. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's become such an endearing brand. And so working on the project was really wonderful. You know, we went through a couple drafts of the script and made it really fit the niche of Hallmark. You know, to then see it come to life is just, I remember I didn't see it till it premiered, but, you know, so when I first saw the first little trailer for it, you know, I was like, oh, and, you know, it goes back to that 13-year-old boy that was ripping off Steven Spielberg. You know, I still get goosebumps, you know, it's just so exciting to be part of something. And, and as a writer, I used to be in advertising before I sold my first script, which was a really good thing because you learn early on in advertising that nothing's created in a vacuum. You know, you're going to get notes. Other people are going to bring their things to it. I might have envisioned this character like this, but someone like Shirley MacLaine, name dropping, she might do something different, you know? And so you're really all, again, back to that community theater thing, you're all coming together. And I'll share one other little thing that just amazes me. I remember Shirley MacLaine was giving one of the interviews for the film, and she was talking about reading the script, and she's just like, oh, I knew Pearl was written for me. And I thought, oh my gosh, here's this Academy Award winning actress, and she is all in on this project. Like, that's just amazing, you know, where I think maybe some performers might be like, well, you know, I've done these major features, so maybe I'll, you know, won't put so much into this. But, you know, and just as she was even gracious and mentioning other people, you know, involved with the production, and I love that. I love, you know, and guess what? That's why she's still working. It's why when she's on screen, she still, you know, commands it. But again, so her version of Pearl was maybe a little bit different than what my version was. And she was not who I visualized as Pearl when I was writing it. I'm a writer that does cast my movies just because I feel like, you know, sort of seeing the actors do their stuff is interesting. You know, and then even to be here now, like, that's the other thing. Like, it was almost like a little tidal wave. You know, it's my first project for Hallmark, and I immediately got a Twitter message from Ruth Hill, who, you know, does her great blog, and, you know, nobody's ever interested in the writer. So I'm like, oh my gosh, who's this? Is somebody like being mean to me and pretending they want to interview me? And, but then, you know, fans reach out, and here I am with you guys. And, you know, and today I was like, oh my gosh, I get to do the Hallmarkies podcast tonight, you know? So it's great. And I truly believe that, you know, the happier I am as a writer, or the more that I love what I'm doing, I would like to think that's going to be reflected on the screen, whether it's a romance or I'm working on a horror movie right now. Even in that, you know, that there's touchstones that the audience can watch and connect with. Mm-hmm. I just think that makes it a better experience. And of course, that's why we tune into Hallmark as often as we do.
Yeah. That's so great. I have a special love for writers. I would like to interview every writer at Hallmark because my sister is a writer. She's gotten 2 picture books published.
Wow.
So that was very
That's a tough market. That's a tough market.
Yeah. So it's really, really, really exciting. And she still has the dream of a novel someday. So she's working on that. But I've just seen what she's gone through. And even, you know, you might think a picture book, but like it's a lot of struggles and a lot of rewrites, a lot of all that stuff.
A lot of no's, and a lot of people will tell you can't do it. And a lot of times people will give you a note maybe that you don't agree with. And so then it's your job as the writer to be like, okay, how can I answer their note, but not take away what I feel is important that's happening here, you know? So it's sort of like backwards algebra, and I'm so bad in math, by the way. But, you know, I often sometimes will picture myself as a little video game character like Mario and Donkey Kong. And, you know, I'm like, oh yeah, I get thrown back down to the bottom, but what do? You got to get up and start climbing those ladders again and jumping over the flaming barrels. That's what life in Hollywood is like, Donkey Kong Jr., just so you know.
Part of the podcast for this special Valentine's Day podcast, we're going to be talking about not only Hallmark films, but feature films that are romantic, our favorite romantic films, something you could watch on Valentine's Day or any day. And so we're really excited. We have some different categories, and we'll each kind of give our picks and try to explain why we like it. First category that we have is Hallmark related, where we want to give your pick for a non-Christmas Hallmark movie, a favorite.
My favorite non-Christmas Hallmark romantic movie is A Heavenly Christmas.
Oh.
No, just kidding. Just kidding.
Like, that's
Greg's camera goes out. Oh, sorry, we lost Greg, everyone. It was great while it lasted. No, I am prepared. And you know what? That's a hard one because there are as many great non-Christmas movies that are romantic as there are Christmas ones. So I really had to do some thinking, and I went all the way back to 2008, and I chose a movie called Bridal Fever, starring Delta Burke. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen that, but it has all the stuff that we love in a romantic comedy. You know, somebody that is a little bitter about love, but thinks she knows everything about love, and it's a writer. So of course I can relate to that. I'm like, a writer, that's my favorite movie. And she is working with her publisher and a couple other people that she is going to help them figure out their love life. And I think what I like about it, aside from the sassiness of Delta Burke, it's such a great role for her, and Hallmark really just found a great showcase for her, is it has all the stuff in a romantic comedy that we like. You know, basically people start out, you know, thinking they know everything. They find out they don't know everything, and then decide they're never going to find love. And then they set out to find love, but kind of take this weird direction toward it, like they're following one of Cupid's arrows that's going in the wrong direction, and then kind of come out the other end, and they do find love in a very unlikely way. And, you know, this is great because even Delta Burke's character, who's written all these romance novels in the movie, and, you know, thinks she knows everything about love, of course she has a few things to learn herself. And it's just one of those movies, I think, where you feel really good in the end, and it's kind of a very traditional romantic comedy, but plays it a little bit more on the edge because she is a romance novelist, so it has sort of fun. And then there's some great speed dating jokes in it too, which this was one of the first movies to really kind of tackle that and have fun with it. And I love that that's in there too, because you know, you got to keep a good sense of humor when you're dating, ladies and gentlemen, as we all know.
We know.
We know. We know. That's another podcast, people. We're celebrating romance in this one.
I haven't seen that one in a long time, but I remember enjoying it. And I do love Delta Burke. She's hilarious. So
yeah, she really is.
Fun pick.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, come on, Designing Women, like, that was the best show ever.
I went back and forth. I have one sort of dramatic pick and one fun pick. Dramatic pick is Love Comes Softly, the first one. It's very romantic, and it's kind of what introduced me to Hallmark. I love the whole series, and I think that the idea that they have to get married and they don't really, out of necessity, and then their relationship starts to grow and develop. And I love the faith themes in it. And I like Dale Midkiff, unlike Amber. And Katherine Heigl is fine in it. She can be kind of annoying in other things, but she's good in this, I think. And her relationship with the little girl is super cute, and I just really like it. So that's my dramatic one. But my fun one is How to Fall in Love. It's one of my favorite Hallmark movies. Eric Mabius and Brooke D'Orsay. Brooke D'Orsay is like an angel. She's so great. Basically in this movie, Eric Mabius is like a total nerd named Harold, and he can't get a date, and so he basically hires this girl that he had a crush on in high school to be his like dating coach.
Yeah, kind of Can't Buy Me Love-esque, but not quite.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I might even like it. Can't Buy Me Love.
Can't Buy Me Love. We'll talk about it later. Not this podcast.
I love this movie. I think it is so cute. They have such great chemistry, and I like Kathy Najimy is in it as a side character, so she's really fun. And so yeah, those are up there, my two favorite. I have other ones like The Nanny Express, but that one is more relationship based as opposed to romance based, I would say.
My picks. So I was debating between like, what do I want to do, blah, blah, blah. And I was really tempted to just do Sarah Plain and Tall because it was like my first Hallmark movie and my first love. And I was tempted to do Loving Leah because that's kind of what brought me back into Hallmark. But ultimately I decided to go with Love in Paradise from 2016. And it is just like a classic, thing. There's this guy who's a actor who is in all these Western movies, but he's never like seen a horse, basically. And he goes to this failing dude ranch to try and drum up publicity for them. And of course he falls in love with the girl. And I mean, it is Luke Perry, for Pete's sake. So how can you beat Luke Perry? You just can't. He's amazing. And Emmanuel Vaugier, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it is, I fully expected to not like it when I watched it for the first time. And then it was full of so much funny stuff. It was amazing. So I don't know if you've seen it, but you should.
Did you get a tear at the end?
Did I get a tear at the end?
Amber's
No.
not really a tear at the end kind of movie watcher.
All right.
I'm kind of just like joke, 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 happy ending. Like that's
That's not a plus for her.
I mean, no, I do like the nice ones, like the ones that are really sweet, but I'm more of a jokes.
When the dude rants with Luke Perry, sign her up. He's no Dale Midkiff is what she's saying there.
He is no Dale Midkiff, but he is a Dylan.
He is a Dylan, that's true. For those that might remember. Google it.
All right, so the next topic that we have is to pick one movie pre-1960s. This is tough. But what did you come up with, Greg?
This was a tough one for me, just because I'm not that familiar with it. But what I decided to go with, I sort of narrowed down those that I was very familiar with and would watch again. And for me, I ended up going with How to Marry a Millionaire.
Oh, cute.
Because it's why I moved to LA, but then did not find a millionaire, so I had to start writing. But you know what it is? It's so, it's got its brassy title, and of course we all think of Marilyn Monroe on the poster, even though she wasn't, billed as the biggest star when the movie came out. But she has that line about guys not wanting to date a girl with glasses. At the end of the day, it's really a sweet, earnest story, and it's the kind of thing that we all love. It's certainly, you see speckles of it in so many other things that, even just like Sex and the City and all that stuff, just because these three girls were coming together, they knew what their agenda was and they set out to do it. And of course, again, that twisted path, and they two end up with non-millionaires. As it happens, one is a millionaire, so that's good. But they didn't know it.
It's a millionaire in hiding. For money.
Yeah. But it's really sweet. And, I think that while it's a very commercial package, which, there's nothing wrong with that. That's the kind of movie that hooks me. There is a really sweet message to it. And I like that. I like sweet messages. And, I'm sure a through line out of a lot of the stuff that we talk about during this podcast is that love happens in a very unlikely way. Even in Hollywood movies, and you often end up with the person that you didn't think you would. And we've all seen enough romantic movies that there's times that we could be like, I know they're going to end up together. But sometimes if I see something that's really obvious, I'll lean forward to the people I'm with at the movies, and I'll be like, this is never going to work out. So obvious. But they take you on the ride, and it does work out in a different kind of way. And So this movie to me just has a lot of charm, and given how old it is, it still holds up. So that's me, How to Marry a Millionaire.
Love it.
It's really good because it seems like the kind of thing that's like, oh, that's going to be like a 1950s kind of not feminist kind of movie with a title like that. But it actually is kind of subversive, and like they're actually like kind of taking a modern approach in a way to like finding a partner and stuff. Like it's really good, and it's also very funny. So I agree. That one.
And I mean, you really honestly can't beat the triple punch of Marilyn Monroe, Lauren Bacall, and Betty Grable. Is that who it is?
I can't
Very
remember.
Good. And Betty Grable was actually who the star was. That's who they were like, that's who our big star is. And so it's so interesting now with a little perspective to look back at 1953, Amber. We're all big with our dates tonight. So that was the release year.
So my choice, I went with Pillow Talk from 1959 with Rock Hudson and Doris Day. And I love Doris Day. I've seen, I think, every single one of her movies, even the not so good period when she had a manager like steal our money, so she had to make horrible movies. I just love her. I think that she's so great. I think she's very underrated as an actress. Like, people think, oh, she's just the blonde, girl, but she actually was like a good actress. And this movie is very like, it has like lots of innuendo, and it's like super inappropriate, but like it's so fun and it's so funny, and it's so stylish, and I love I think her name's Thelma Ritter, I think's her name, who's her like drunk housekeeper. She's great. I love Tony Randall. He's really funny in it. And Rock Hudson and Doris Day just had such amazing chemistry. They were so fun. He's playing when he's pretending to be Rex, the Texan, is so funny. And I love the ending. It's hilarious when he goes and just grabs her and takes her. That's so funny. And so, yeah, that's what I pick is Pillow Talk.
I can't disagree.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's so good. I don't feel like Tony Randall gets enough love nowadays, but Tony Randall is amazing.
What about you, Amber? What's your pick?
Me. Okay. This should not surprise you based on what I said. But before I tell you what my choice is, it was really hard for me because I love old movies. Like, I have been I probably have seen more black and white movies than I have seen color movies. So it was really tough. And I was really tempted to just go with my favorite movie of all time, which is The Philadelphia Story, but I feel like it's more of an ensemble piece than a romance, so it got eliminated. And then I was super tempted to go with Casablanca, but that felt too cliche, so I didn't do it.
Philadelphia Story is playing in theaters at Fathom Event next week.
Oh, I know.
People should go. Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
So go see The Philadelphia Story if you've never seen it. It's amazing. The dialogue is incredible. But so I ended up choosing Bringing Up Baby from 1938, starring Katharine Hepburn and Cary Grant, and it's so good. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's amazing. And you haven't or have?
I have, yeah.
Okay, it's so great. And then, of course, I mean, it was one of the inspirations for What's Up, Doc, which is another amazing movie. And it is just so clever and funny. I mean, and you can still see some of the jokes building, but I think the anticipation of knowing what's going to happen almost makes the gotcha moments even better. So I just love that movie. I think it's so clever. And I mean, can you beat Katharine Hepburn? I frankly say no.
It's an unusual part for her because she's kind of just so silly, and I don't feel like she did that many or not really silly, but she's just such a mess. She's such a klutz and everything. And I feel like she didn't really do that often. A lot of times she was sort of in the Spencer Tracy and her movies, she's not really, that's not really her character.
Her characters were always in control, but you're right, in this one she cut loose, And what's interesting about all the movies that we've mentioned and in this era, as a writer, I'll say the writing is just stellar. And I think about writers back then that did not have computers. So, if you're going to rewrite something, you were going to rewrite it. It wasn't just changing a page of dialogue. And the word that comes to mind in all these choices of ours is Cracker Jack. The dialogue is just so quick and it's so smart. And to be able to watch something that was created pre-1960 and have it hold up now, and even see actors that maybe did something a little different than we were used to, like Katharine Hepburn. It's just, so I love that you guys chose this category, because I think it's, so often these days we're like, what am I going to watch? And, you choose something that came out in the previous year. And while there's great stuff to choose from, sometimes going a little further back and being willing to watch a black and white movie, you're just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And they really hold up. They really hold up.
Yeah, for sure.
There's so many amazing movies for sure. So the next topic was impossible. It was so hard. I don't know what we were thinking, but we have 1960 to 1990. It was very difficult. So what did you come up with, Greg?
Well, this is where I kind of went back and forth on two, and they were both, ironically, both Goldie Hawn movies. And one was Foul Play with Chevy Chase from 1978, and the other is Overboard from 1987. Soon we will have to say the original Overboard.
I don't think we're going to really need to clarify in the future.
But you didn't hear that from me. So I'm going to go with Overboard, but I think that both movies kind of take these really outrageous premises, especially Foul Play. Both of them do, actually. But there's so much heart in each of them. And so focusing in on Overboard, it's, again, it's such a fun setup. And, you talk about supporting characters, you might think we're talking about an older movie because you think of Roddy McDowall in Overboard, who was just great, who was her butler on the boat. And
Andrew.
Yeah, that's right. There she is now. And just, you know, but with the kids and just the whole thing, and you're watching this person get a comeuppance, and this is certainly one of those movies. I mean, they were dating at the time, right? So we're like, we know they're going to end up together. But by the last half hour of the film, you're just like, oh my gosh, they have to, you know? And I guess Amber wouldn't cry, but I might get a tear. You know, at the end, when she's going to unite with, you know, it's as much a love story for the kids as it is for Kurt Russell's character. And I just feel like that movie holds up and just hits on just so many levels. And, you know, somebody who is still with us and alive is Goldie Hawn. And you just look at the work that she was doing back then. It's just amazing. So for me, Overboard.
Excellent pick. Incredible movie. I remember the Oscars a few years ago, they were having people say their favorite movies, and Reese Witherspoon said Overboard, and I was like, that's it, Reese Witherspoon, we're best friends. So
I love it.
So it is such a great movie. There, like, almost every line in that movie is so well crafted. I mean, I can't really think of anything where I'm like, oh, that was a dud. Everything's so great. And the funniest thing about Overboard is that when it came out, the critics hated it. Nobody went to see it. It was a huge flop. And now it's regarded as like one of the classic romantic comedy movies of all time. So it's just it's so funny how time changes perspective. But
critics are often tough on romances. I don't know what their problem is.
I think also because they were dating at the time and were, you know, very much a public couple, that, I don't know, maybe that did it. But you're right. If you mention Overboard, everyone in the room will say, oh my God, I love that movie. And if they don't, you should leave that room.
If you don't, get the Overboard DVD out of your purse and say, okay, I know what we're doing.
That's right. I dare you to watch this and not love it.
Yeah. I have not seen Foul Play, though. I haven't seen that
You
one.
haven't?
No. So I have to check that out.
Kojak, Bang Bang!
Oh my God. That's a really, and again, supporting characters, Dudley Moore in a smaller role in that movie, but just so funny. You got to watch it, Rachel. Please let me know what you think.
Okay. I will. I promise. This was, I'm not excited. I could have probably made a list of 200 movies that I love for this Not, no exaggeration. But I had to go with Dirty Dancing as my pick. I think this is 1987, and this movie is just so great. It's like part coming of age story and part, you know, romantic movie. But you really get to see Baby come into her own. And, you know, it's kind of interesting because here you have, I'm a very conservative person in my political views. And so the idea of me loving a movie with a character that has an abortion is kind of an interesting thing. But it's done in such a non-preachy way. And it's done in a way that it's like, this is just the choice this person has made, and I can understand that choice, and I can understand how it works into the story. And so it's just, like, I don't have to approve of all of the choices the characters in the movies I like make. I just have to have them be valid for those characters that they're in. And so it's really interesting to me in that way. Of course, the dancing and the music is so great. All the great scenes that we all love. I love Jerry Orbach as her dad. He hardly says anything, and I just love that. And, I love that it's just, you see her just sort of bloom through the course of the movie, and I think that's my favorite part. And I think Jennifer Grey does such a good job of, you know, portraying that in her character. And a lot of times I don't like coming-of-age movies because they can be kind of, I think, a little bit mean-spirited sometimes. Mm-hmm. Like, I was a grumpy teen, but I wasn't mean. Like, I wasn't cruel to the people around me. And anyway, and so, but this, like, she's definitely rebellious, and she's definitely pushing limits and stuff, but she's still, like, a sweet person and a lovely person. And her and Johnny Patrick Swayze, oh my gosh, the best. Yeah. And such chemistry. So, that's and I love all of the songs. She's Like the Wind and Time of My Life, and anyway,
and all the classic 60s music. Come on.
Yeah, great soundtrack. Yeah, you know, it's funny. That is a great movie. And that to me is one of those movies that people think they remember and they really don't. You know, you bring up some of the heavier plot points and you're right. Maybe you didn't agree with some of the choices the character made, but they also showed you perspective on another person.
Yeah.
You know, perspective on that as well. But that movie was very three-dimensional. You know, people remember the dancing. They remember Nobody Puts Baby in the Corner. But if you watch it again, there's really some heavy themes there. And that they can do that with music, with dancing, and with just that you're, you know, in the last 5 minutes of that movie, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm a dancer too. I feel it. You know, is again, just hitting on all cylinders. But that is a movie, again, that people think they remember, but they really don't, because it's a quality film.
Yeah. They draw you in with Patrick Swayze and the kid dancing and everything, and then they're like, boom, we're gonna teach you something along the way too. So I just love it.
Yeah, so this movie was my favorite movie when I was in preschool and has stayed one of my favorite movies growing up. I honestly have probably seen this movie over 500 times because, you know, when you're a little kid, you just like watch a movie on repeat and repeat. And that was this movie for me, and Grease. And so, I mean, what was my mom thinking, first of all?
I had a different experience than you because my parents are not media people at all. They don't watch TV. They don't watch movies at all. And there's no way my mother would have let me watch a movie called Dirty Dancing. That would never happen. And so this was a sneak movie. This was a movie I watched at sleepovers with my girlfriends that we weren't supposed to watch, but we sneaked it and watched it anyway and loved it. And so that's part of the reason why I have a special affection for it also, because it's just so many memories too. There's a whole bunch of movies that are like girls just want to have fun and cutting edge. And I have like a whole bunch of movies that are like my sleepover movies that I usually snuck that my mom probably wouldn't have. 90210 was also a show I would totally sneak watch. I was allowed to watch. So
wow,
anyway.
we're learning about Rachel's rebellious side in tonight's podcast.
Yeah, I know. Sneaky 90210 is out of control.
Like everyone else, this was really hard for me. So I'm just going to go through some of the didn't make the list ones because I was trying to be super clever with my list and pick stuff that you guys wouldn't think. And initially I went super obscure with this movie called Don't Tell Her It's Me, or sometimes it's called The Boyfriend School, and it has Steve Guttenberg and Shelley Long, and it is so funny and so a little bit naughty, and it's so funny. But I didn't pick it because I felt like I was maybe the only person who's seen this movie other than my sisters, so I can't choose it. And then I wanted to pick something like whimsical, so I was thinking Willow or The Princess Bride or even Romancing the Stone because that was such a good adventure.
Is there romance in Willow?
Yeah, Saoirse and Mad Mardigan. Like, I dwell in darkness without you, and it went away. That's romance right there.
I don't even remember that. That's funny.
And then I was like, how about a movie that is my life, which is Some Kind of Wonderful? And then I said...
Best John Hughes movie.
And then I was worried Rachel would pick it. So I ended up choosing a movie that was so important to me as a child. So I chose Somewhere in Time from 1980, which I'm pretty sure Christopher Reeve impacted me tremendously, where I don't know if I can love anyone who isn't Christopher Reeve.
It's a good one. It really is. I like that one a lot. That's a good pick.
And great soundtrack too. I'm a big soundtrack person, so Somewhere in Time is one of my favorite instrumental soundtracks.
Yeah. Everything about that movie is so amazing, and also it has time travel, which come on, that's amazing. So
Jane Seymour.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anyone on earth who hasn't seen it, but go see it.
That's a good one. I go to a restaurant here in LA. It's been around since 1947 called the Valley Inn, and they have the portrait of her from that movie signed in the lobby.
Oh, that's cool.
From Somewhere in Time. Remember the painting of her character?
Yeah.
Remember that, Amber?
I do. My family actually, when I was like 6 or 5, went on a vacation to Michigan, and we went to Mackinac Island, went to the hotel. We ran down the stairs and screamed Richard. It was amazing. So it's amazing. It's the best movie.
I'm so jealous. I couldn't even get my parents to watch that movie if I paid them. Like, they would have no interest in that at all. So you're going to like the hotel. So jealous. Since Amber mentioned all these other picks, I will say I wanted to pick Breakfast at Tiffany's so bad because it is a movie that is very special to me. That I actually have the whole final scene in the taxi cab. I have it basically memorized. I think it's perfect. I love the writing and the idea of, it's kind of my version of Catcher in the Rye, because I never really like responded that much to Catcher in the Rye, but the whole idea in Breakfast at Tiffany's of like, is she a phony or is she a real phony? And of course that's a big thing in Catcher in the Rye is phonies, and so I don't know, the idea of like these two sort of lost souls coming together. And I love Moon River, and I just love the movie so much. Also, I had Moonstruck is another movie that I love, and
great one.
That Nicolas Cage can't act. He can totally act, and he's so great in that. And I just love when they're fighting back and forth, and she's like, "You're a wolf without a foot," you know, like it's so good. Next topic that we have is 1990 to present feature films. And of course, another challenging one, very challenging. Greg, what did you come up with?
This was not challenging for me because this is my go-to romantic movie. I mean, there's a ton of movies I could choose for sure. But for me, it's While You Were Sleeping with Sandra Bullock.
Yeah.
To me, as a writer, I feel like this movie is so pitch perfect. You know, she's adorable, of course, and it's, you know, again, it's got that thing where she's sure this is the guy who she loves, and, you know, inadvertently ends up as part of his family, and then is really falling in love with the family. And I just love when these romances extend to that element, not unlike Overboard. Then the other thing that I really, really love about While You Were Sleeping, which by the way, it still completely holds up, but as a writer, I always try and keep this in mind, no matter what I'm writing. There are some quirky characters in that movie, like her landlord's son, you know, who wants to try on clothes and stuff. And they're kind of irritating at the beginning of the movie. By the end of the movie, the way it's written, you like every character in that movie. And to me, that's the ultimate feel good, that you watch this great romantic story and they come together and it all works out, but that you care about all of the characters and the family and the quirks. And it's just, I mean, talk about feel good. So for me, hands down, While You Were Sleeping.
Absolutely.
I love While You Were Sleeping. So good.
Yeah, it's amazing. First of all, I just have to say, best scene in the movie, though, is when the kid falls over on the bike. Because it's so funny. But every scene where the whole family's together is just amazing, because they just have their dialogue, especially where they're talking over each other. Every single line is so funny, but you have to pay such close attention to see like the follow through line. So like you could be watching it for like the 80th time, and then you finally catch a line and understand why it's so funny. It's a very well crafted, it's an amazing movie.
That dinner, particularly the dinner scene is so good when and everybody knows I really don't like the liar reveal, so the fact that movie wins me over and it says saying something, but Sandra Bullock is the best. And but yeah, that dinner scene is so funny when she's like Mary mashed them, and like so and so is tall, and Spaniards make great beef or whatever.
Tina has great beef. Beef and Nazis.
I did have some honorable mentions that I will say real quick. I love Juno so much. I think I love Deborah Cody's writing, and I love all the performances, and I just love it. I loved in 2016 a movie called Sing Street. I thought it was amazing. Great songs, great romance, so good. I love Sense and Sensibility. I'm a huge Jane Austen fan. And I love the Pride and Prejudice with Colin Firth. I mean, I like both Pride and Prejudices, actually. For my favorite romantic comedy from this period is You've Got Mail. And I love You've Got Mail. I love Shop Around the Corner also. But there's some, like Shop Around the Corner goes to some dark places with like suicide stuff. Like, it's sort of weird, but I love it. But I love You've Got Mail. I love Nora Ephron. Like even her bad movies, I can still watch and still like love. I can still enjoy. And I love her books of essays. I just love her writing so much. And I think
that she's gone.
Yeah, we've not had, like some people try to pretend that Nancy Meyers is Nora Ephron, and she is not. And I just love her writing so much. I love all the little sort of diatribes that she does about Starbucks and about, I don't know, like sending bouquets of newly sharpened pencils and The Godfather and just all of that I love. And I think what's so great about this movie is that it's really actually a movie about work, and I love movies about work, but it's a movie about how people identify themselves with their jobs so often, so frequently, but it's not really who you are. And you have these two people who are so identified with their jobs, especially Kathleen, and but they don't really become themselves until they communicate with this person that doesn't even know what they do for their job. And that becomes their like true self. And I love the fact that they had the guts to actually have her store close, and she has to deal with it and deal with the change and deal with like losing her mother basically all over again. I love the scene when he comes in with the daisies and she's sick. It's so good. I love like when she's taking down the tree and she's talking about Joni Mitchell songs, which I love. And I love Greg Kinnear. He's so funny in it when he's doing that interview with the Republican lady. It's hilarious.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you.
What's that?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's so good. And when he's like, you need quiet while the hot dog is singing. I love the fact that Gene Stapleton has an affair with Jenna Russell Franco. That's hilarious. I love Dave Chappelle in it. He's so funny as this Joe's friend. I just love it. I think it is so well written. I think it has heart. I buy the ending because of all of the growth that she's had to experience from the time she loses the store to the time because he's been tweaking something. And yeah, I love all the hints to New York with Grace Papaya and Riverside Park, and I just love it. It's a movie. It's probably the movie I've seen the most in my life. So, anyway, so that's my pick.
It's a great one.
Great one.
So.
I don't really even know what to say because you said everything, but yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
What's funny is I watched that movie recently, not for the first time. Big Nora Ephron fan here. And it's surprisingly topical, even though, they have the sound when you're signing on to AOL and, some of those texts that have passed. But, the whole businesses replacing other businesses and being an adult and having to suddenly redefine yourself, which we see a lot nowadays, right? As technology goes faster and faster. So I found that the subtext of the movie was very, very topical, along with all the other things that we love about it, of course. So great pick.
Quickly go through some didn't make the list ones. So I was really tempted to do just like a super sweet movie called Flipped, which is based on a book that I absolutely adore. And it's basically about a first love. And it goes through the perspective of the 12-year-old boy and this 12-year-old girl. And it switches between her perspective and his perspective. And the book is really cleverly written, and the movie is quite well done, and it's just so sweet. And it just really captures that whole feeling of loving a boy since you were 5 and then being 12 and being like, do I really like this boy or do I just like the idea of this boy? So it's really great. And then I love my whimsy, so I was really tempted to do Stardust, even though I don't think a lot of people love that movie, but I really love that movie. But ultimately I decided, I got to go a little more mainstream. And I was really tempted to go with a sort of snarky pick by choosing the Duff or She's the Man, because I was certain neither of you would pick them. But ultimately I was worried that this movie would get overlooked. And I think it is Meg Ryan's best movie. So Watch out, you've got mail. And I chose 1994's IQ with Tim Robbins and Walter Matthau.
I'm totally comfortable with you picking that because I think it is super underrated.
Super underrated.
Yes.
And you know, once again, the dialogue, the writing in it is so clever. Every character is so well defined and given chances to shine. So it's my pick. I don't even know what to say other than it's amazing.
That's a great one.
I love all those men and, you know, the Einstein and his friend. Oh, so great. I wish we could have had a whole movie just with them. And that reminds me, I also love the movie Return to Me, which has sort of a similar dynamic of old men talking and stuff. And I love that movie as well. So there's so many good ones. So the next one we added kind of late in the game, but we just thought it would be fun to talk about our favorite romantic musical. So Greg, what did you come up with?
Well, I will quickly reveal that I had a childhood crush on Olivia Newton-John. So I wanted to go to Grease or Xanadu, which there is a love story in that as well. And, you know, we all know Grease, and a lot of us know Xanadu too. That's another one that was panned when it came out, but has since become a cult favorite. You know, Grease, I remember just as a boy watching them sing, and it was also my first musical that I really, you know, conceived of. And I remember laughing through summer nights. I thought it was so silly, and how could they be singing? And then by the end of the movie, I was probably dancing and singing in the theater too. So those two for sure. But I'm going to go with a little more random musical, Enchanted from 2007. Excuse me.
Love.
Adams. And another one that just takes all these romantic comedy and, of course, even animation tropes and kind of turns them on their ear. And it does such a great job of having fun. I won't say making fun, but having fun with the genres, but never making fun of them. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't get too silly. And at the end of the movie, we're caught up in the romance and we're rooting for the hero and we want this to end well. And I think the songs, you know, while there aren't a lot of songs in it, maybe 3 or 4, I think they're so well done. So I decided that would be my best romantic musical, Enchanted.
Love it. Great pick.
Yeah, that one I have on my wild card honorable mentions. I love it. It's one of the only Disney movies where you see a Disney princess actually like do some mothering and being like, you know, and helping this, you know, little girl. Like most of them are just these, you know, rebellious teenagers. And so I really love Giselle in that movie, and Amy Adams she just sells it so good.
Yeah, she really does. She embodies it wholly. And I mean, come on, getting those rats to clean the toilet. I mean, there's nothing more romantic than that. Than rats.
Yeah, and James Marsden is so funny in it too.
Yeah, everyone's great, you know, and you're right. The little girl aspect of it is beautiful, and we've talked about that in a couple films tonight with the family aspect, that love extends beyond, you know, Mr. or Mrs. Right. It also goes to, because you are marrying into the family, right? And so when movies kind of approach that in a really fun and unique and even tender way sometimes, it's kind of special.
Cool. Well, it's perfect that you chose that because that has Alan Menken songs, and so does my pick for best musical. I decided to go with Beauty and the Beast, and not 2017 Beauty and the Beast, 1991 Beauty and the Beast, because my other love outside of Hallmark movies is Disney and animation. I see every animated film every year, and I love animation and I love Disney. And I have to admit the new film kind of exposed some of the flaws of the original film, which I resent about the new film, but I still just love it so much. And I love Little Mermaid is my favorite with kind of nostalgia thrown in, but it's not as romantic, I wouldn't say, as Beauty and the Beast. And I just love the idea that you have this character who learns to see the beauty of this beast, you know, and like to see.
So it's not just a clever title.
Yeah, exactly.
No. I always say the title is the log line.
And she learns to forgive and she learns to love. And I love all the vocal performances and I love all the animation. Amazing. The ballroom scene is amazing. Lighting and just it was just such a beautiful movie. And I love Angela Lansbury singing Beauty and the Beast. So great. I love Be Our Guest and Jerry Orbach again. Maybe it's just a theme for me, these picks. But
you're all in on Orbach.
Yeah, as Millionaire, he's so great.
We have really hit on something here.
Yeah,
family and Orbach. That's all you need.
Pretty much.
All you need, and maybe a candle that talks.
Yes.
It's a very romantic movie. I remember seeing it. I love that Beauty, or that Belle had her little, wisp of hair that she had to, and that was something we'd never seen in an animated movie. But one thing that really, when I first saw it the first time, I was like, it's going to be so special, is the stained glass motif at the beginning. And just how they put such heart and power into just that initial scene. You could really tell that it was going to be special, and boy, did it pay off. Yeah. So that's a great choice. I love it.
What is your pick?
Okay, so I went with quantity of romance over not even necessarily quality, because it's amazing. I went with quantity of romance, however. So I chose 1954's Seven Brides for Seven Brothers.
Wow.
Because, there are literally 7 marriages in that movie.
Yeah. True.
And at least 6 love triangles. So, you guys, how can you beat that? That's that's amazing. But
that's
really, though, all of the songs are so fun. Like, the lyrics in the songs are really funny, especially Sobbin' Women, obviously. And then it's just so, obviously I don't condone kidnapping women. We just went through that. But I don't know. It's so fun. And honestly, I feel like the dance scene at the barn raising is one of, if not the best dance scene in ever.
Yeah. Well, see, this is what's so smart about that movie is they actually hired professional dancers.
Except for Ben, who can't dance and struggles to keep beat in the background, and you need to watch it.
Yeah.
You need to pay attention to Benjamin next time you watch, because he is honestly like...
Is he? I didn't know that. But they were willing to dub, and they were willing, because the priority was the dancing, which I appreciate.
Yeah, it's so good.
Bonding with each other and finding strength in each other, and even finding that it's okay to maybe not have a romance right at this second in each other. And so even with the silliness and the zaniness and some of the raunchiness of this movie, I felt like there was a really powerful friendship love story between the 3 women. So that is my wild card, the other woman.
Interesting.
You're such a writer with your symmetry and the starting from How to Marry a Millionaire with 3 strong ladies and ending with this and 3 strong ladies. Look at you.
I'm a real class act, Amber.
Love it. Okay, so
wait, I want to talk about this still. Don't sell this movie short. So we love this movie in my family. It's one of my dad's favorite movies, which is so funny because he does not like raunchy things at all. And there's a little bit of raunch, but not so much. But a
little bit, yeah.
But he loves this movie, and I really love this movie because, like you said, it's about these ladies, coming together and working together. And when initially it came out, I was like, so this is John Tucker Must Die for adults, but it's done way better, and it's so good, and I'm actually super glad that you picked it. I wouldn't have thought of it, but it is an amazing choice. So way to go, Greg.
Cool. So I'll give some of my honorable mentions. I love Tangled. I love Enchanted, which you mentioned. I love a little indie animated movie called The Red Turtle.
Mm-hmm.
That was just a beautiful romance. I love While You Were Sleeping. I have my list. The Princess Bride, 500 Days of Summer. I have Rocky on my list. So that's actually a beautiful romance. And I have Empire Strikes Back and my wild card. I think it's actually good. I was trying to think, I think there's some good movies that are more couple friendly. Like if you have a man in your life who isn't super into romances, like,
or a lady in your life who isn't super into romances.
Fair enough. But like something like Rocky.
Or a dog.
Or Rocky or Empire Strikes Back are kind of like secret romances. I did a blog last year on secret romances. They're like, you don't think of them as romances, but they actually are. Like The Dark Knight. It's like this secret has like a romantic plot to it. If you think about it. Anyway.
They fit in.
Yeah. So anyways, but my pick is a movie that I have been raving about for the last 2 years, something that I love. And again, animation is my favorite. And this is an anime film that came into theaters last year, but it was officially a 2016 film. It was my favorite movie of 2016. And it's still the best movie that I've seen in 2 years. And I see a lot of movies. It's called Your Name. And it's by the director, Makoto Shinkai, animator. It's such a layered, beautiful story. It starts out as these two teenagers who, one lives in the country, Chihiro, and one lives in the city. And one day they wake up and they're body swapped. They don't have any idea who the other person is, so they have to try to kind of figure it out and put all the pieces together. And you have, one person else is a girl in a guy's body, and you have a guy in a girl's body, and so there's some funny physical humor with that, but it starts out just very light like that. And you get kind of introduced into some of these parts of Japanese culture, some of these traditions and some of these things, and then it takes a turn, and it becomes, there's sort of it's hard to explain without giving it away, but there becomes something that happens that separates them. And the male character just like feels such a yearning to find Chihiro and to go after her. And he doesn't know that's her name, hence the trying to find your name is the title. Anyway, but he just feels this like yearning. And so he starts on this sort of quest to try to find her. And I just think it's so beautiful. I think it's funny, it's moving, it's exciting, it's romantic. It's got everything you want in a movie. The music is so great. I love it. It's by this band called Radwimps, and it's so great. And the animation is just stunning, beautiful. There's all these comets, and it's really pretty. And I just think it's spectacular.
I have to check that out. I haven't seen it, but what a great recommendation. Quick side note, Tangled, the best. Anytime anyone mentions Frozen to me, I'm like, what about Tangled? Go watch Tangled.
I love both, but yes, I do love Tangled.
Yeah, I thought Tangled was so great. But yeah, what a great pick, Rachel. I love that. I can't wait to check it out.
Ooh, let me know what you think.
Have you seen that, Amber?
Me? I have not. And I mean, I basically am a terrible friend because I'm pretty sure Rachel is just constantly like, everyone should see Your Name. And I'm like, I don't think I'm everyone, right? I guess I'll have to now that it's officially on the podcast as right. Rachel loves. And otherwise everyone will judge me. So I got to watch it.
I wanted to pick a unique pick that only I would pick. And so that's what I did.
It's a great one. Great wild card.
I'm just going to tell you a quick story before I give you my pick, which is when I graduated from high school and I never had a boyfriend on Valentine's Day, I said, Valentine's Day is going to be the best. So I started a tradition of watching as many versions of Pride and Prejudice as I could on Valentine's Day and eating Chinese food. And it's the best tradition ever, still going strong. And I figured even if I somehow get a boyfriend or a husband, I can make them watch Pride and Prejudice and eat Chinese food. That's very Valentine's-y regardless of if I'm single or not. So I couldn't decide between a version of Pride and Prejudice, so I totally cheated and picked Northanger Abbey. But the PBS version from 2007 starring Felicity Jones and J.J. Field, and this is actually my favorite Jane Austen book. And I have been waiting basically my whole life for a good adaptation of it. And they finally made one in 2007. It's really fun. It's probably the silliest, I'd say, of all of Jane Austen's books. Mm-hmm. Because, the girl in it is quite silly. She's I'd say the silliest of all of Jane's heroines. I mean, even Emma, she's sillier than Emma, but it's definitely overlooked in the Jane Austen catalog, and so it's my pick for a wild card because I was pretty sure no one else was going to pick it.
Which Pride and Prejudice do you like best of all?
See, it's too tough, and like,
okay,
and you add in like Bride and Prejudice, the Bollywood one, and it gets really complicated really fast. I have like 15 versions of Pride and Prejudice on DVD, so.
Wow. I am with you on loving Jane Austen. Anything Jane Austen, I love. And yeah, the Northanger Abbey is really cute. And it is, they should do a feature film. Because I think that was a PBS one, right?
Yeah, it's a PBS version.
They really should do a feature film of Northanger Abbey. I think it would be really fun. I could totally see it doing well. So
I'll get right on.
So that's a fun pick.
I'm going to call it A Heavenly Abbey.
Yeah, that's right. Good.
Full circle, girls. Full circle.
All right. Wow, we did it.
Look at us go.
Some good wild cards, too. I feel like, I don't know if you guys noticed, but I've been taking a few notes, by the way, with a pink pen on my pink shirt on Valentine.
Amazing.
But I've been taking some notes on movies that I either haven't seen or I'm like, oh, I need to watch that again. So, my gosh, how fun.
So your Valentine's Day is set. You are.
I never have a problem with romance, with musicals, with, again, it's just, I love to feel good. And when you find movies that you can watch more than once, and, a couple that we've mentioned during this podcast, that you pick up new things each time you watch it,
Yeah.
What an amazing thing to happen. It's great. It's why we love cinema, right?
Yeah. And I can tell you, I'm going to go watch Overboard as soon as we're done with this podcast.
I'll play. I'm going to watch that for sure. I think the people in your house, Greg, are going to be like, why did he go on that podcast? I was watching all these movies.
No. Are you kidding? My reputation has been shot in this house long before now. I did it myself.
Nice. I love it. Oh, well, this is so fun. And thank you so much for joining us. We really had a great time. Hopefully we'll do it again. It was really fun.
I have to tell you, it really was my honor again. I love Hallmark. The fans are fantastic. I love what you guys do. I love what Ruth Hill does. I mean, it's such a beautiful community that is so accepting, and especially right now on social media, to find a place where we're all okay and not bullied, and it doesn't matter what we're bringing to the party. There's just that great feeling, and which P.S. is why we like romantic films as well, right? So it really, I'm so glad to be here with you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I love you now. Like, we're the best friends. Sorry, Rachel, that you're not my best friend anymore. Greg's my best friend. He hasn't bullied me into watching an animated movie on the podcast.
I know. Well, we better be. We might switch bodies, even though I know your name.
Oh.
I'd watch that. That would be highly entertaining. All right. So make sure you guys, we have been like on a podcasting, like, I don't even know, bonanza or something.
Yeah, call us Hallmark Channel because we're releasing so much content.
Yeah, so we just had these opportunities come up and you just take advantage. And so we had the opportunity to interview Jen Lilly, and that posted. And so definitely check that out. It was so fun. And we had the interview, and we had the opportunity to interview Marcus Rosner, and that was really fun. He was a delight. And we finally did our podcast on Postables. So check that out.
This weekend, we have Wedding March 3 coming to Hallmark Channel, and we could not be more excited. In fact, Rachel and Amber are so giddy they can't even speak.
Yes.
Back to you, June.
Love it.
There you come. This has been a great Thanksgiving Day parade.
Yeah, and then on Sunday, Hardys are going to be so excited because When Calls the Heart is back, and this is just very exciting. And then also there is the new reality show, Meet the Pete's, that will premiere on on Sunday. So lots going on with Hallmark this weekend, and we are going to have some kind of coverage of When Calls Loud. We're still sort of working things out a little bit, but we'll have something. And then next week we have finally our coverage on Countdown to Valentine's Day, and that's going to be super fun too. So lots of fun stuff coming up, lots of great content out there. So thanks so much. And so Gregg, where can people find you?
They can find me on Twitter at Gregg McBride, GreggMcBride. Also on Instagram. I do have the cutest dog on the planet named Latte. # Latte the puppy. That's the only reason people interact with me on social media. It's all because of my dog. But I'm okay with that. I'm good with that. But yeah, that's where people can find me. And again, just thanks to the fans and thanks to Hallmark. And thanks to you guys.
Oh, thank you.
My new best friend, Amber.
Yes, my new best friend, Gregg. Not Gregory, just Gregg.
No, that's not your name.
So Amber, where can people find you?
As always, people can find me. I'm at Amber Brainwaves on Twitter, and that's it.
All right, and you can find me at Smiling LDS Girl on social media and at Rachel's Reviews on iTunes and YouTube, including several videos about about your name if you're interested on my channel. But I will be reviewing Black Panther sometime this weekend, so if you want to check that out. And yeah, you can follow us on social media here at Hallmarkies Podcast on Instagram and Twitter and iTunes and everywhere. So please do that. We try to post every single day on Instagram. And so make sure you're following us. And thanks so much again, Gregg. And we will see you guys all next week.
All right.
Bye,
Bye
guys.
everybody.
Bye.